Hi, everybody. Welcome to Breaking Free. This is a free webinar that will enable you to hear a good glimpse of what we teach in our course, Heal Your Past. So it's me, Lynn McTaggart.
And it's me, Brian Hubbard.
So let's get started. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to tell you a little bit, give you a taster of what our course is all about. We're going to let you do a few bits and pieces just to get a sense of what we do. But before we get started with that, please write in the chat and let us know where you're calling in from. We'd love to hear where you're at and why you're interested in this. So do write in the chat, say hi to everybody else. We've had loads of people sign up for this free event. So we'd love to hear from you. But here's how it's going to work. So we're going to talk for about a half an hour. And then we're going to give another half hour for questions about what we've presented, but also about our course, Heal Your Past. If you have a question, please don't write it in the chat. Write it in the Q&A. And we have Cara Logan here from our team, and she's going to be reading out the questions to us, okay?
And it's also questions you may have about your own life or issues that maybe we can help talk through with you.
So great. Let's get started. So, what do we think time is? Because everything we're talking about has to do with the past. And our ideas about the past and the present and the future have to do with the universal notice and understanding among human beings that time is essentially an arrow, a forward going arrow from cradle to grave. And we all believe this, we all assume it, and we think this is happening because of our own aging process. So we think of it as linear and infinite, from past and present to future. So the question is really, does time actually exist? Now, according to classical physics, yes, but not according to quantum physics. Every quantum physicist, such as the famous physicist, the Italian physicist Carlo Rovelli, say there's no place in the brain that understands time. In fact, there is no such thing as time. Now, we go into this in great detail in our course. We also show you instances of how you can go back and access information that you wouldn't know about in the past, and also access information in the future. The brain can pick up things from any kind of dimension, but it certainly doesn't understand what we think of as time. To the brain, this is the amazing thing of it, recall of our own past and imagination of the future are the same. And there was an amazing study about that from Washington University with MRI scans, which showed the absolutely identical area in the brain was activated when people were recalling a common event in their past or imagining a future activity, for instance, like getting lost. So, no matter whether they were thinking past or future, the same place in the brain got activated. And what that actually means is to the brain, time is one big now, and space is one big here. In fact, the famous dean of engineering, the late Robert John, once said to me, "Take time out of it, Lynn," and it all makes sense when he was talking about all of the remarkable things he was discovering about mind over matter and the fact that mind could affect machines in the past or even in the future. So time is one big now, and space is one big here. And that gives us opportunity to heal our past. If past is here and now, we can do something about it. But there's a big reason why we can. And Brian, I'd love for you to talk about what time is.
Okay, well, Lynn, that's right. I mean, time is, well, let's put it this way. Bessel van der Kolk, who was a famous psychiatrist, did his best-selling book, The Body Keeps the Score, said that when he sees patients, it's as if whatever happened to them was happening now, or even just a day or so ago, when in fact it happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. So it's ever present. And if any of you suffer trauma, know that only well it keeps recurring and is ever present. And that was one of the first great discoveries of time light, which is the therapy that I have developed. And that was time as we understand it, rather than being this great smeared out quantum physical now, but the time as we understand it with past and future, all that is actually psychological time. Now, time in that sense is released at the point of trauma. Now, what is trauma? Well, is exactly what it says it is. It's a wrenching, it's a tearing. Trauma is when we are separated from the world. So, as small children, we don't have a sense of difference between myself and my parents. And slowly that starts to happen. We start to get a sense that maybe my parents are different. And there is the moment when life does not behave in a way that you want it to, and furthermore, you can do nothing about it. And that is going to be one of the lessons we're going to go through, is called Lynn's retroactive intention, where we go back and redress those issues. So trauma is the moment when we separate from the world, and it's also when because we can do nothing about it. And that is one of the key insights to Time Light and this work that we'll be working on with you. And it's a pretty important insight because there are things we can do about it. So,
And I wanted you to
mm,
also talk a little bit about the ACEs, the
yeah,
adverse childhood,
yeah,
because we talk about
yeah,
trauma. It isn't necessarily getting hit by a car.
yeah,
It's not necessarily, getting your head chopped off.
no,
It can be something that we consider
yeah.
relatively minor.
Yeah. So as I say, essentially, the world doesn't behave in the way we want it to. Now, in 1997, the Kaiser Permanente researchers put together a list of 18 ACEs, as they call them, adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. And they range from anything from, your parents weren't at home when you came back from school, through to your mother being an alcoholic, your father taking drugs, your father going to prison, all the way through to including incest. And what was so interesting about this, and this really amplified my discovery that in fact energy is released at the point of trauma. When they looked at this and studied amongst about 16, 17,000 people, they found people who suffered 6 or more ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, when they were children, died 20 years prematurely compared to someone who suffered 1 or no ACE at all. Similarly, with ACEs, that people who suffered 4 or more were something like 4 to 5 times more likely to suffer from heart disease, cancer, and the like. Now, I think it's Columbia University have now described ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, as the 4th major cause of death. And around about 450,000 Americans die each year as a result of these ACEs. Now, it's very significant. It means this energy is actually shaping and changing your life to the point of you dying prematurely, to you suffering heart disease, cancer, and the rest. And this is such a fundamental point to understand, that you're dealing with energy. And that in fact, when you get that, when you actually understand that, it changes everything, because then suddenly there isn't a you that has a problem, but rather the problem has created a you. And maybe we'll go on and talk about that in a moment, Lynn.
Absolutely. So the problem with this is we have this issue, we have this trauma, and we keep repeating it over and over again. It shapes you and it shapes the choices you make. So Let's just do something with you right now. Think about the main limiting thought you have about yourself that seems to be causing or contributing to your limitations in life. Go back to the first situation you can remember that caused you to think that about yourself. Just write down what was said and your reaction. Just make a note of it now. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want you to try this later. And also, we're going to be going into this in huge detail and what to do about it in our course, Heal Your Past. But just think about this now. What was and is the main limiting thought you have about yourself? And that is limiting you. And then go back to the first situation you can remember that caused you to think that about yourself. So if it happened when you were in the womb or you were an infant, don't think about that. Think about the first one that you can remember, the earliest one you can remember that caused you to feel this about yourself. Was it a teacher humiliating yourself? A parent screaming at you and telling you you were stupid? Anything like that. Just think about it and write it down. We're just going to give you a few moments to do it right now. And this is the sort of work we do in this course. But as I said, we tell you what to do about it. We show you what to do. So have a think about this even after this webinar. But I want to talk about why we create patterns. And we both have views about this that really dovetail. The point is, the mind is a sense maker, a storyteller. You know, we're filled with a riot of information. We see millions of things every single day. Our eyes are subjected to a riot of sounds and smells and sights of every variety. We can only take in a tiny part of them. But the point is, our choice of what we take in and our choice of memory are highly selective. As Joan Didion said, we tell ourselves stories in order to live. Otherwise, we couldn't cope with that giant influx of information. But the problem is, we don't see loads of things, not just because we don't notice it, but because we have been conditioned not to notice it. The ultimate author and the lens through which we see the world is our past. So if we have been conditioned to feel unloved or that we deserve lack, that we don't deserve to live a happy life, that's what we're going to see all the time. We reject anything that doesn't fit the grand narrative we have created from past experiences, or, as Brian would say, the past experiences that have created the you that faces the world. And so we are essentially unreliable narrators. You've probably heard that term when it comes to literature. Now, Brian, you've got a thing called the 20 Golden Keys.
Right.
So why don't you give people an idea of what you mean by this? Because this really has to do with patterns, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It's to do with behaviors. And I just want to go back a step as well, just to amplify the point we were making earlier. And that is that we're dealing at an energetic level, and that energy is released at the point of trauma. And this energy determines and shapes your life and shapes you. It also creates psychological time because the past then creates a future which is grown from that past. And so, as Lynn said, we then look to confirm that bias through selective things we see and believe in, and so forth. Now, to understand ourselves better, I developed a thing called the 20 Golden Keys. And this is a series of characteristics, issues that we face in our lives. From and one of the more extreme is I believe the world is a hostile and unfriendly place. And but it goes from anything slight right the way through. So the point is that we see the world in this way. So why, if the world is actually neither good nor bad, but we put the value into it by saying, for example, it is bad, or people want to do me harm, where does that value come from if it actually isn't in the world? Well, it comes from us. Of course it does. And more importantly, it comes from our own experiences that we've only partially experienced. We have not fully experienced something, and that is why trauma lingers, why this energy exists and carries on in us. And it's one of the other exercises we'll be dealing with is just that, is starting to live 360 degrees, where I see other players with the same clarity, insight, and compassion that perhaps I see myself. And when that starts to happen, true healing begins. Because people who are perpetrators, we understand where they came from and why they did what they did. And extraordinarily as it may seem, they were doing the very best they can. And that is sort of a releasing thought. So yes, we go through the 20 golden keys. What we try to do at the early stages of time light therapy is map out the landscape, so you begin to understand a little bit more and define how you're seeing things and what your expectations are before we even begin to say, well, why do you hold that value thought? Why do you think that? Because the process is very, very simple in that, I say, it's energy is released at the point of trauma. Energy then drives emotion, and emotion is then translated by the brain as thought. And that is the simple process. But there's something really profound about this that I just want to quickly touch on before passing back to Lynn. In the West, especially, we hold to the idea that I am an independent agent who makes decisions and make choices. This, my friends, is a fiction. And the truth is that we are driven by these energies and emotions that create a self that then believes it has those issues. For example, if we have anger problems, we believe that I have anger problems, and that is not true. Anger is an expression from the trauma that creates a fictitious self that has the anger and then says, I have anger issues. But the I comes after the anger, not before. And this is a fundamental insight into the way Time Light deals with people's issues. And the 20 Golden Keys is one way of identifying those issues. So, yeah.
And what they are is just really highlighting the things you do, the choices you make, the patterns you've created in your life that are leaving you powerless, that you aren't even choosing. As Brian is saying, the past is choosing you and making those choices for you. So we help you not only identify them, but also take back your power. That's one of the keys to a number of the exercises that we do in Heal Your Past. Brian touched on my retro intention work. What I've discovered is because time is one big smeared out now, you can go to the past, you can go to the future. You don't change what happened in the past. You change your response to it. You take back your power. And that's one of the key elements to sadness and powerlessness. You feel that you make no difference in the world. You are not a free agent. And we show you that you are, and you can change in an instant. But Brian also touched on something else that is really important, and that is forgiveness, seeing things in the round. That's going to be another part of it. What we're going to do before we see things in the round, before we deal with forgiveness also, is to show you the moments that have created your patterns. And we help you find those situations that keep reinforcing those limiting beliefs you have about yourself. We help you find the thread that links them. And we show you how these thoughts color your attitude to your present goals. Now, what we're going to be doing in Heal Your Past is also having you work in small clusters, even pairs, so that you can work on a variety of these things experientially, both during our classes and between classes too. So I mentioned the power of forgiveness and how important this is. Psychologists call holding a grudge the universal bad boy of mental health. It can kill you. When you don't forgive people, it can kill you. So it's not a nice thing to do. It's an essential thing to do for yourself. And so one of the things that we work on is forgiveness. It's good for your health in all of these ways. When you hold a grudge, you continue to have stress, and we have exercises in our course about regulating your nervous system, your vagus nerve. It can lower the risk of heart attack, just forgiving. Cutting down those high levels of cortisol when you are sympathetic nervous system dominant, as most of us are these days. It even prevents a cytokine storm. And remember, that is the thing that leads to severe COVID. Our body overreacts to a stress, and we kill ourselves through a cytokine storm. It lowers blood pressure. It helps to heal arteries. It lowers PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of those things. So forgiveness, as Dr. Judith Thompson, who runs forgiveness sessions, said, it's like untying a knot between you and, as Brian says, the perpetrator. You both see each other and you forgive. And we have many exercises with that. We have role play exercises that are extremely powerful. And Brian, you've got a wonderful little prayer for forgiveness.
Yeah, well, it's up on the screen now, I hope. And I think the thing is with forgiveness, I think a lot of people say, I really can't forgive that person because what they did to me was so awful. And I really understand that. Other people say, well, I don't know. Can I forgive someone? Am I God? Do I have that power to forgive? No, you don't. But here's the one thing you do have, the one thing that under which you have some control. And it is this, that you forgive yourself for carrying the burden. And that's really what you can do. And it's essential that you do. And so, as you can see, this is the simple forgiveness statement I suggest, or words to that effect, whichever works for you. But to whomsoever, I truly and deeply forgive you from the bottom of my heart for what they did. I'm releasing you, and I won't carry the burden with me. You're dissolved in my love. And something like that is the idea that I am forgiving myself for carrying the weight of the past. And that's really something you can do. And I think it's essential, as you saw with Lynn's previous slide, that indeed you do. For your own sake, it's vital. And I think that is something we can all deal with, yeah?
And we also help you forgive patterns in your family. There are ancestral patterns that you carry on, burdens of guilt, burdens of shame, all kinds of things that you carry from your ancestors, and we help you with those too. So, Heal Your Past, it's our course. We're kicking it off in the last weekend of October, October 25th, and there's the link. And Cara is also going to put it in the chat for anybody who wants to find out more. And you'll find out all kinds of elements about our 5-week course. You're going to be having exercises on this live and interactive 5-course event. You'll have a chance to do homework and practices during the week. And we've seen it, we've run it for many years in retreats in person. This is the first time we're doing it online, and we really invite you to join us. It has changed many, many thousands of people, changed their lives. So now, Brian, we have time for some questions.
Great.
Thanks, Lynn. We've had lots of lovely comments. I have a few questions here. The first one is, I've had a lot of bad experiences in the past and I struggle to move on. How do I let go?
Okay, so we let go. Let's see. It's a whole course worth of letting go. And the first thing is to identify what it is that is creating your limiting thoughts. Where did it start? And then we do many exercises to help you release it. We do, as we said, retro intention. I've been doing a lot of that, and I find it's just as powerful as intending for your future. We do pattern recognition. We do the well, you used to call them the troublesome 20.
I know, it's the 20 golden keys. Yeah. And I think, obviously there's not a lot of information there about bad experiences. But if you, instead of seeing yourself having bad experiences in life, rather see the energy that is creating these experiences, because what the energies of the past will do is seek confirmation. Now, we have to go back a step and realize that actually everything is energy. You are energy, you are in an energetic field, and you're also living through the energy that was released at the time of trauma. Now, it is the energy that matters, not you. And when you start to realize this energy is creating this world, this series of experiences, because it does it to confirm its own experience. And it will use you and will create a you that then says, I have these bad experiences. So you really have to see with great clarity what actually is going on. But it's not you having bad experiences. It is the experience of the past seeking to experience itself again. And when you start to see that and you wake up from that and realize that was never me, because we haven't even touched on the model of the Time-Light model, which is a three-part self. But the most important thing is what I call the potential part, which is outside of space and outside of time. And what that's called the Atman, that's called the soul, that's called the spirit, could even call it the Godhead, call it what you like, but that's actually what you are. And it never gets seen or heard because you are a creature of time. You've been created by time. These false selves are time. And so the true magnificence of what you are, which is timeless, just can't be seen or heard. So what is happening is the past is experiencing the past, and that's what's happening. And when you start to see that, it's a releasing thought.
And what we help you to do is to identify when you are limiting yourself, what patterns you have created or have created you, and how you are starting to see the world only as that energy is creating your view of the world. I give you a wonderful example of this. A girlfriend of mine. She is an heiress. She grew up with a very wealthy family. She married a lovely guy. They had a lovely child. But this friend of mine always saw things through a pessimistic light. It had something to do with her childhood. I didn't completely understand until much later why. But the point is, we once went on the most beautiful holiday of our lives with them. We went to the Amalfi coastline and we got a very good deal on a hotel. We couldn't believe it. We didn't have much money then, but we got a great deal. And yet all she could see was the traffic jam there, not the beauty of the coastline, not this amazing deal we had, not our wonderful times. And that was the lens through which she saw the world. A lot of people are like that. We help you get over that and to see the world for the magnificence it truly is.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
Cara.
Yeah, we have another question. Someone says they are an excellent reproducing artist, but they have something blocking them. They want to have confidence and they want to know how can they release what's blocking them and break out.
Well, we would need to know what is your pattern, and we help you identify that pattern. And once you do, we can start working with the troublesome 20, the 20 golden keys, as you put it, Brian.
But I think in this case, where you talk about blocking, what is being blocked is the extraordinary self, the creative self, the eternal self is being blocked. What is it being blocked by? It's being blocked by the energy of time. And what is that? That's a confirmation of past experiences, which is creating the blocks themselves. You are not blocking, there are blocks that creates the self. That's really turning it around on its head, but it's important to see it that way. And so it's an energetic thing, and the point of this work is it works at that level to help you unblock yourself and become the true and great artist that we know you are.
And we will help you identify those blockages. Oftentimes they're not apparent to you because you're so used to seeing the world through this energy that you don't see what you're doing. You don't see the patterns that have created you. And we help you see them and release them.
Okay. Another question?
Brilliant, thank you. Somebody asks, what if you have an autism or ADHD diagnosis? Can you still release your past and release the trauma of the medical journey that they've been on and the trauma held in the body?
Well, I think for sure you can. In a way, it's to understand the three-part self, and it's quite goes a bit deep, and didn't have much time for that. But you're made up of the present, you're made up of the past, but also three subsections of past, and then there's the potential. And this is a birthright for every human being to bring the potential into the world. And it doesn't matter whether you have autism, ADHD, or anything else, but all these things can be overcome in the sense that you can live a full and complete life with them. I'm not saying we're curing it, but you can live with it, and that is most certainly the case. And I myself have had a fair share of issues from depression. I think I've got a fair degree of ADHD and God knows what else. But the point is, I'm able to live a full, happy, and complete life with all of that. So it's really, again, just understanding those processes that are going on, and to some extent they can be treated by going through the 3-time model as well, and looking at the present, looking at the past selves, and then looking at the potential and the thing that you really want to do. There was a great cancer guy who worked with us, Bernie Siegel, and he was dealing with end-stage cancer, and he was saying to people, well, look, if you're not going to do your painting now, when the hell are you? You got end-stage cancer. And he said, finally get in touch with who you really are and what you want to bring out into the world, whatever it might be. And they then did that. Finally, they had been sort of denial all these years, working for others, doing things what others thought they needed to do, and all the rest of it. And in some cases, the cancers actually reversed. So, whatever is going on, things most certainly can be done. Never put a limiting idea on that and saying, because I have autism, it's not possible. It most certainly is.
And we can help you too to get over the limiting belief of a diagnosis. As Brian says, there are many people who reverse end-stage cancer. Kelly Turner did a wonderful book called Radical Remission. She interviewed hundreds of people who had end-stage cancer, so-called end-stage cancer, and they reversed it. And the attributes that they had and the processes they followed fell into about 9 different categories that were common to all of them. The interesting thing that I found was only 2 had to do with the physical body, eating better and exercising more. The rest, the 7 others, were psycho-spiritual practices of larger community, of having a strong spiritual life. The point was, we are very plastic. We can change. And one of the things that can hold you back more than anything else is a diagnosis like autism, a diagnosis like ADHD. That in itself is a limiting thought that ends up being the lens through which you see the world. I can't do that because of my ADHD. Well, I can't do that because of my autism. And it becomes my autism, my anxiety, my ADHD. And we help you get over that.
Okay.
Okay. Cara.
Somebody has asked, can you forgive people but still not allow them back into your life? Is that healing or avoidance?
The key is the forgiveness part. It doesn't especially matter. I think the point is this: when you start working on yourself in this way and you start to see the issues as energy, as which will release point of trauma, this energy, when you start to work with that energy, everything starts to change, including the people around you and the way those people behave towards you anyway. The key, that is what happens then doesn't matter. What matters is you do the stuff for yourself and you work on, the idea, for example, of forgiveness. What happens thereafter happens. So it's not really, your life will start changing. And if that person has no purpose in your life, is not needed in your life, they will fall away. If they are important in your life, they will change. And just watch it happen. It's really fun.
Yes. And the point is, as Brian says, it's the forgiveness process. You don't even have to say, that didn't happen, or they are now your best friend. It is about, as we say, the various processes of understanding why they were as limited as they were, why they were trying their very best, even though it was harmful, even vicious, that you end up with an understanding and a forgiveness, and it changes everything about you. And that's what we're most interested in, not the relationship with the other person, but healing you.
Okay.
Okay, Cara.
Yeah, somebody asks, can you give an example or more information about a retro intention?
Okay, well, retro intention is a way of going back to a particular incident. You don't change what happened. What you change is your response to it. So instead of being that little child that you were at 5, who was humiliated by a teacher, made to stand up, I'm just giving you an example, made to stand up, hang your head in shame while she said, "This is really terrible. You are so stupid at math, aren't you?" Or your name was at the very bottom of a list of grades and you were the dunce of the class and you were filled not only with shame at the time, but it colored your perception of yourself so that you thought that you were stupid in math for the rest of your life through adulthood. So, what we help you do is take back your power, not to change what she said about you, but to change your response to it so that you speak your truth, whether it is, "No, miss, I'm not stupid at math. I just don't understand what you taught me, but I will in a few years." Something along that line. So we help you frame it, reframe that past situation to reclaim your power So that's what's really important. We don't create a fantasy where you change everything that happened so your teacher was lovely to you, etc. We help you take back your power because it is the loss of power, the trauma, as Brian calls it, that is the energy that stays with you. And we have seen remarkable instances over and over again of people whose trauma created all kinds of things, even physical things in their body, get released. I mean, at one time we saw a woman who had vitiligo based on, she had developed vitiligo after a traumatic experience. And when we went through this exercise with her, her skin, I promise you, started repigmenting right before our eyes. It was unbelievable, unbelievable.
And that's right. And as I said, there are two aspects to trauma for the energy to continue. One is the event itself, whatever happened, but the other is your inability to respond to it. And this is what this exercise does. It finally gives you that power. And if everything is now, then it's as important you say it now as if you had said it 30 years ago. And that's a very powerful exercise that we do. And as you say, with enormous success. It's a fascinating one to do.
Okay, Cara.
Yeah. Will the course help with over empathizing with others and experiencing the physical sensations in the body from them?
Of somebody with very, as they call it, thin boundaries. We can help you understand that energy. We can help you create more boundaries, but I don't like the idea of boundaries. I can help with another kind of thing that I do to help people strengthen themselves so that they aren't as they aren't leaky buckets. Let's put it that way. I don't like the idea of barricading yourself off from the world. A lot of people try to do that with empathic people. I figure if we're all one, if we're all part of a giant energy field, why would you want to cut yourself off? So I have another exercise for it, which is very, very powerful. And that is all about holding on to the thought of what you were born to do.
Okay, somebody asks, I keep getting sick, always in pain. I have very little memory of my childhood. How can I get rid of a trauma I can't remember?
Well, because you're dealing with energy, it doesn't especially matter that you remember what the actual event was. It could have been, for example, living in a hostile environment at home where there's always this pervasive sense of violence, even if the parents never were violent, for example. So that would leave that sort of legacy of energy, if you like, and without necessarily one specific memory related to it. But the rules apply, and it's all still about working with the energy, because it will become apparent. And it doesn't matter if you don't remember any specific thing. For some, I had an awful childhood, but my mother had to tell me some of the things that my father did because I had no memory of them, but I had the energy of them. And so in a similar way, we'd work with you at that level.
And what you'd also do, let's say if we did a retro intention, doesn't have to be the first incident. It can be part of your pattern. And you can choose one element of that pattern, one specific incident that you do remember, and we can work on that. And that helps to dissipate all of it.
Okay.
There's a question about the course here. They're wondering if the course is online and it's only one session a week, can deep healing take place or does it need to happen in person?
No, it doesn't have to happen in person. I mean, we have run it in foreign countries online. We've run it once in Germany online, and it was very, very powerful. It's all about the exercises, and we have you work with other people who are on the course. That is what's also powerful. It's a very safe space. It's all people in a similar boat who are working together just as they would do in a retreat. So it works as well because you're doing the same exercises, you're doing exercises by yourself. We put you in groups, we put you in a community, and you can continue working with them indefinitely.
Yeah, and with Time Light, there are about 20 exercises, and they all take place outside of the session. Yeah, it's what you're going to do every single day, little things you're going to do that change your relationship to time, and that's what we'll be working on. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, can deep healing happen? Yes, it can, but it also depends how much time are you going to put into this? Are you going to put the effort in to do this work as well? Because none of it's hard work, but it is stuff you have to do every day. And you know, we do a lot of exercises, you know, relating back to the person with autism. We do exercise about not naming, and we go through how long can you go without naming, without narrating. And these little exercises you can do at home, you can do it whilst you're watching television, but you're active, you're being a conscious person doing this. So that's really where the deep healing happens. You know, you just come into the classroom to get your next course notes, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit like my intention courses. For instance, with my master class, I teach for 6 2-hour sessions. By the way, this course is 5 2-hour sessions, live and interactive. But I do those 6 weekly sessions. Then I put people in groups. The people who meet with their group diligently once a week for a year, which is what the assignment is, people who actually do the work, the vast majority have some sort of big transformation. In fact, I just checked in with the course members in August. That's about halfway through the course. And 92% of the people said that their group had experienced transformations in all kinds of ways. About 75% of them had said they themselves had. Now, these were the people who were active. They were meeting every week. They were into it. They were coming back with for these mentoring sessions, et cetera. So these are people who were doing the work, and they can expect to have major changes in their life by the end of the year. So it's the same with you with this course. You're willing to do the work, you'll find changes, big changes that happen in your life.
Yeah. Another question, Karen?
Following on from that question, a few people have asked if they can't make every live session, is it still going to be valuable to them to join?
Absolutely, because we're going to put you into groups so you can meet with your groups, you can meet with other members of the course. During the week, you'll have exercises to do. Every session is going to be recorded so you can do all of the work by yourself and then catch up with other members of the group to do group exercises sometime during the week.
Quite a few people have asked in different ways, what if they need to forgive themselves for some kind of behavior that's been damaging for somebody else?
Well, a good deal of this is about forgiving yourself. Just as Brian said, is what's really important is to forgive yourself. We run through that too when we talk about forgiveness.
Yeah, it's one exercise. It's a very powerful one. But you know, we can be nasty human beings and do nasty things and say nasty things to others and do nasty things too. So yes, that's who we are. The point is understanding the process as to why we're like that. And when you start to see with clarity why you're behaving like that, it stops because you're no longer the victim of the energy that actually pretended that you were a person who had nasty thoughts and did nasty things, but rather it was the expression of the energy itself. And so it's the same applies. And when you understand this very deeply, then it stops. And yeah, you can certainly forgive, or rather, you know, ask for forgiveness from others after the fact. But you know, again, once it stops, everything starts to change. And so again, the same principles apply. Another one.
A number of people have asked what time are the calls, what time zone are they in. I have added the link in the chat, so if you follow that, all the information is there. I don't know if you, Lynn, want to just give a summary of when they'll run.
Sure, they're going to run generally at 6 p.m. UK time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. No, sorry, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK, 7 p.m. Europe, and then other times around the world. There is one session, I believe it's our first one, where we are kicking it off a little bit later. I think it's about an hour later, but you'll see all of the exact times on our website.
And on time, someone has asked, can you say more about our relationship to time?
Well, yeah, well, let me say it again. I mean, it's a little bit counterintuitive because we are brought up to believe that I am a person in the world to whom things happen and who does things. And there is a self that is consistent, but it's not that self. So the time is energetic. Time is this energetic time, psychological time is created when there is trauma, which then creates psychological time of past to future, not present, past to future. And in so doing, it creates a self that presents itself to the world, but it's a false self. It's the self that you present to the world is the past. It's not actually you. And so you are time. Your relationship is so profound and so deep that actually there is no division between you and time and the past. And just want to say one last thing, because I'm so old now, I don't care saying this stuff anymore. But Time Light is a spiritual therapy, and its fundamental question is, if we, as we are eternal souls, why do we not realize it? That's the fundamental driving question of Time Light. And this may rankle with some of you, sorry, but it's the truth. We are eternal souls, and we don't know it. And the reason why we don't know it is because we are creations of time. That's the relationship to time, and that's what we deal with in this course.
And looking at it from the physics point of view, for instance, people like Carlo Rovelli say that human beings are the only time machines in nature. Other beings live in eternal time, as Brian talked about, one big smeared out present. We have created time. So we have created that linear aspect of time. And in terms of a concept, but the trauma as an energy has created us and creates that sense of ourself. So it's a complex idea. But the point is, and the really important point is number one, you can dispel those traumas that create the energy that has created you. And two, you can quote unquote go back and change the past. So we don't actually change the past, but what we do is give you back your power with past events so that you can live in joy and freedom in the present.
I think we've got time for two more questions.
Okay.
Two more questions. So, Cara, you choose them.
Okay, I've got two important questions lined up. The first one is, if people share very personal things in the course, in their group, can it be guaranteed that it will stay in the group?
Well, we will ask people to do that, and we can even ask them to sign something that says that what they're learning stays in the group, is not broadcast in any way, is not told to anyone without that person's permission.
Yeah, I mean, to use a phrase which I hate, it's a safe space. We've run workshops where we've gone through these ACEs and things, and it is upsetting, really, the level of abuse that people have experienced. But that's part of the healing too, because another timeline lesson is about finding a narrator, finding someone to talk to about this, because all our thoughts are made worse because we don't express them, and we live in this mental landscape where these thoughts loom large, and so we're all coming together. I'll talk about my childhood and the abuse I suffered. I'll talk about my depression. I'm open about this, and I want everyone to be open about it. I don't expect to see that on Instagram anytime soon, because we are trusting each other, and we're here to help each other, and that's how we're all going to grow. So hopefully
we've never, in all of
No.
the years that we've been teaching this in retreats, had any problem, any blowback from people saying that their information had been shared. As Brian said, in a number of our retreats, we'll go through the 18 ACEs, and we have people who are raising their hand on almost all of them, including incest with their parents.
So,
it's shocking, and yet they feel comfortable and safe enough to share this very, very painful stuff.
One last question.
Yes, the last question is, how do the exercises in the course differ from IFS or NLP or somatic work?
We don't have anything to do with any of them.
No.
And Brian, you can say, the retro intention is work that I've developed. The Timelight exercises are work that Brian's developed. We don't base our information and our exercises or the course itself on any other therapies.
But no, we don't. And all those exercises, or rather those therapies you mentioned, are very valid and very helpful. Somatic believes that energy is trapped in the body. NLP sort of talks about behavioral things and so forth and so on. All very useful stuff. But I work with a 3-part model, and the present incorporates the body. And that would be where the somatics happens, but there's so much more going on. We have 3 memory selves, and I haven't spoken about any of that, and then the potential. So it is quite different. It's a different sort of insight, and it's a different way of treating the issues. It changes the therapy. It changes the way you see your own issues, the way you see yourself, and it's radical, because this is the point, isn't it? We don't want to just modify behavior, great as that can be. We want a radical revolution. That's what we're here for, and that's what we aim to achieve, and that's what matters.
Absolutely. And also we're looking at it from a system of energy, not just within us, but all around us. I'm looking at it from a physics point of view, from intention, which is really all about energy that goes out into the world. So we're looking at it from a very, very different model than the classic psychological model, which is essentially looking at it as a bodily function.
Okay, so you want to wrap up?
Yeah, so thank you all for listening to us, for being here, for asking such brilliant questions. You'll find out more about our course, Heal Your Past. It starts on April 25th.
April?
Oh, April. It's October 25th. October 25th. It starts and it runs for 5 sessions. They're 2-hour sessions, each of them live and interactive. We do exercises, we put you in groups, we do all kinds of things right there and then online. Lots of things you can do during the week. You'll get introduced to the other members of the course. You can work with them, you work by yourself. And at the end, we also carry on that community so you can continue meeting with your group. We've had many people from our past events, our retreats, who continue to meet, have continued to meet for years. So please find out more about it. And remember, check out lynnmctaggart.com. Cara is writing the URL in the chat. So if you are interested, please do join us will
And
welcome you.
and before you go, everything's so expensive now. Energy prices are going up, food prices are going up, yeah, everything's going up. And so until Sunday, we do have a special price on this course, which ends this Sunday. But right now it's early bird, and I think it's the best investment of all. Sit in the dark if necessary, but invest in yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we hope to see you there. Remember, Early Bird ends on Sunday at midnight. So do take advantage of our special discount. Hope to see you there. Take care, everyone. And thank you, Cara, for helping out.
Thank you, Cara, and thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.